This is World of Africa. Welcome to the show. I'm Erik Njoka. This week we shed light on Kenya. The East African powerhouse was embroiled in political tussle over the past few months over the cost of living. The opposition protests cost the country in terms of lives lost and economy dwindling. But now both President William Ruto and opposition leader Raila Odinga have agreed to put that aside and talk. Will dialogue yield anything? We'll talk about that shortly. We begin this edition from West Africa. Gabon will be heading to the polls on the 26th of August to elect a new leader. Well, let's just say Gabonese will be exercising their right. About electing a new leader? Not so sure. Current President Ali Bongo is seeking another term in office. You see, his father and also the predecessor, Omar Bongo, ruled the tiny nation of 2.3 million people for 44 long years. And the son doesn't want to let that go just yet. Here's a report from Libreville.
J'annonce officiellement aujourd'hui, je suis candidat.
Standing before a crowd of supporters in June this year, the Gabonese President Ali Bongo declared his interest to continue to rule the country for another term. He's been president of the tiny West African nation for 14 years.
My dear compatriots, I want to fight for our country, for you, for everyone. I want to fight to convince people that we can have confidence in our country.
Bongo still enjoys support from his country's people. Most of them believe that their candidate is the choice of reason as he launched his election campaign in the Owendo commune.
So beyond the social reforms, improving the synapse and taking families, households and young people into account, I think that for a while now, when we have watched the 52 minutes of convincing, we haven't had a speech as frank, as honest, as direct as that of candidate Ali Bongo Ndimba.
Aussi franc, un discours aussi honnête, un discours aussi direct, comme celui du candidat Ali Bongo Ndimba.
The Bongo history runs deep in Gabon. Omar Bongo was president of Gabon from 1967 until his death in 2009. He ruled for over 44 years and became one of Africa's longest ruling leaders. When Gabon was granted independence from France in 1960, Bongo became politically powerful. Omar Bongo remained in power because of his control over the army and because of Gabon's elite class personally benefiting from his rule. Although Bongo was known as one of the most corrupt African rulers, he also developed a reputation as a peacemaker for his attempts to bring together warring factions in Chad, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Angola and Burundi. After his death, Ali Bongo took the mantle and promised to continue with his father's reign. The president was narrowly re-elected in 2016 with just 5,000 more votes than rival Jean Ping, who claimed that the election was fixed. The announcement of the results sparked violence in the capital Libreville. The opposition says 30 people were shot dead by the security forces. Bongo suffered a stroke in 2018 and spent months on the sidelines recovering, leaving the opposition to question his fitness to run the nation. He still has a stiff arm and leg and mobility difficulties. But in recent months he has held Republican meetings around the country and made official visits abroad, including for summits. Bongo's candidacy was approved despite opposition claims that he is unfit for the presidency.
Honestly, I don't think he has a chance of winning unless he uses force again, as he did in 2016, by shooting at the people who are supposed to vote or hand over power. If it's at the ballot box, the people of Gabon won't vote for him.
He can win because he is doing a great deal for our country, Gabon, and he is developing our country, Gabon, because if it weren't for this society, I wouldn't be wearing this hat today.
Gabon has validated the candidacies of 19 people, including President Ali Bongo and several former ministers, for the August 26th presidential polls. The presidential ballot will coincide with elections for the National Assembly and regional and local councils. Gabon is one of the richest countries in Africa in terms of per capita GDP, due largely to its oil revenue and relatively small population of 2.3 million. A third of the population still lives below the poverty threshold, according to the World Bank. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Let's now head to East Africa, where weeks of protests in Kenya made headlines since May this year, when the government clashed with the opposition over taxes and cost of living. The latter blamed the former of high-handedness when it came to addressing concerns from citizens. They have both decided to give dialogue a chance. Let's find out what's happening in Nairobi.
Weeks turned into months. Kenya was engulfed in running battles between the police and the country's opposition, led by Raila Odinga, who lost the last general elections to now President William Ruto. Odinga decried the high cost of living and urged his supporters to take to the streets until the government pays heed.
Today was a start. Hello, hello, hello. We'll have demonstrations again every Monday. Next Monday, we'll be demonstrating every Monday. Do you support us?
It all became a cycle and circus between security forces and civilians who were demanding justice. President Ruto was criticized for breaking promises made during the election campaign when he declared himself the champion of impoverished Kenyans. But the president remained steadfast, even assenting to the controversial finance bill and the budget, which angered the opposition even more. The president insisted the controversial tax hikes are needed to create jobs and fill government coffers as the country teeters under a debt mountain of more than $70 billion.
What is going on in Kenya is the usual challenges of democracy, where people want to challenge the rule of law.
The unrest sparked alarm among the international community, which urged the two sides to negotiate an end to the crisis. Ruto eventually expressed his willingness to meet Odinga in a social media post addressing the opposition leader. Odinga called off demonstrations in April and May after Ruto agreed to dialogue, but talks broke down with several demonstrations held this month. In the end, Kenya's government and the opposition launched fresh talks aimed at resolving a bitter political feud. But even as the formal dialogue kicked off in Nairobi, both sides insisted that there would be no form of power sharing to resolve the crisis in the East African powerhouse.
We shall not negotiate, and this is important for us, for any form of power sharing with the Kenya Kwanza alliance, or put any personal interest ahead of the interests of our people.
The talks are taking place at the Bomas, a tourist site which was also the venue for the announcement of the results of the tightly fought elections held a year ago.
We come here in good faith. We come here putting the interests of the people of Kenya first. We come here determined to look for long-lasting solutions for our great country, Kenya.
No time frame has been set for the duration of negotiations, and even the exact agenda is the subject of contention. At least 20 people have been killed in the clashes according to official figures, although rights campaigners put the toll much higher. The unrest in one of the region's most stable democracies had provoked alarm at home and abroad. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Let's now shift our focus to the Horn of Africa and talk about Sudan. Out of work as fighting rages between the forces of rival generals, many Sudanese have been forced to find creative ways to support themselves and their families. Here's a report from Khartoum and Omdurman.
It's another day in Sudan. Ishraka Musa, an internally displaced woman from Khartoum, is making tea on the streets of Al-Hasahisa city in Omdurman. This is what she has been forced to resort to.
The war caused us a lot of damage. We left our houses, properties and everything we had. It's a tragedy. I came here and bought this cart to make tea so I can afford to live. Now, if I pay for breakfast, I can't afford to buy my children lunch as well.
Ishraka doesn't have a plan B, and escaping to a neighboring country is definitely not part of that. She is hoping that the situation will change. A few kilometers from Ishraka is Michelle Elia Musa, a Sudanese teacher from Omdurman, making bread in Al Hasahesa city. She is among many who were forced to find alternative sources of income after losing their jobs.
I had great dreams, but I have lost hope and no longer understand anything. Even my ambitions to be a great teacher are gone. And now I am here in the market cooking food. I am sad and embarrassed, but this is war. It forces us to do things.
University lecturer Ali Saif was left without pay for months. To make ends meet, he has turned to making soap in his room at a makeshift displacement camp.
The forces seized our homes and our salaries were delayed. All government salaries were delayed. As they say, suffering creates creativity. So the idea of making soap arose. There is a shortage of soap in the markets amid high demands, while there are few goods on offer.
Out of work as fighting rages between the forces of rival generals, many Sudanese have been forced to find creative ways to support themselves and their families. 4 months into the battle, both believe they would win. Sudan's army has lost its grip on Khartoum to paramilitaries, who are unable to declare victory and instead are accused of waging war on civilians. When fighting began on April 15th, Sudan's army chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan was certain it would be over within 2 weeks. His former deputy turned enemy, Mohammad Hamdan Dagalo, has vowed that his rapid forces will achieve victory. Yet, neither has been able to gain a decisive advantage, while fighting has killed at least 3,900 people, uprooted more than 4 million, worsened food shortages, and sparked war crime allegations. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
In Nigeria, there has been a notable lack of widespread financial literacy. Nigeria's financial inclusion rate grew to 64.1% in 2020 from 63.2% in 2018. The 2020 figure is short of the Central Bank of Nigeria's 80% financial inclusion target for the year 2020. Last year, the Apex Bank increased the target to 95% by the year 2024. In a bid to help Nigerians, especially the youth and women, make informed decisions about their finances, QNet, a global lifestyle and wellness company, has launched the second phase of Think Green program in Lagos. Our correspondent Louisa Olaniyi sent us this report.
QNet program aims to empower the youth in financial management through education and training. The program, aimed at working with marginalized communities around the world, aligns with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and Addis Ababa Action Agenda, both aimed at providing adequate skills and training.
We are glad to inform you that Think Green will be launched in disadvantaged communities globally to assess the UN SDGs and build stable and healthy economies in developing nations. We are committed to empowering individuals through entrepreneurship and providing genuine opportunities for financial growth in Nigeria and the world at large, because we believe that young people in Nigeria can succeed in creating a positive and financially stable environment.
With a model of peer-to-peer training, the beneficiaries share their journey, as the initiative is designed to impart critical financial management skills and knowledge by training young leaders drawn from various communities.
The Train the Trainers program, what happens is for 2 days, you are trained and then you get to train other people in your local community, at least 20 people, according to what we were told, at least 20 people within 30 days of your own training. So the plan is that you have learned about savings, you've learned about money, how money works for you, how your mindset matters in these things, and you are expected to go out into your community and teach other people.
Now, looking at individuals on the individual level as a youth, financial literacy is very important, and to learn how to manage your finances, to learn how to manage yourself, and everything about finance is really important, and we cannot do this without having the requisite education, financial education as it is, and that is why we are here to learn.
Partners to the training agree that Nigeria, like many other countries, faces challenges in terms of financial literacy.
Financial literacy in Nigeria is not much different from any other country. Young people are clueless about financial literacy. And this program here is very apt because starting young, you're able to understand what finances are, how to use finances, loan, do I take a loan, what are the implications, how do I budget.
Efforts to improve financial literacy in Nigeria have been ongoing, including government initiatives, NGO programs, and private sector partnerships. These efforts aim to provide accessible and practical financial education to different segments of the population, especially young people. Experts believe, however, that addressing the dearth of financial literacy requires a multifaceted approach involving education, awareness, and improving access to formal financial services. From Lagos, Nigeria, Louisa Olani, WION World is One.
Let's now head to South Africa, where women are not holding back. They are leaving their footprint in every sector of the society. The informal waste sector has been a male-dominated industry for long, but through various collaboration, innovation and support from government and private initiatives, female wastepreneurs in the country are slowly making their mark. Our correspondent Carlton Ongmu has filed this report.
These two young South African women are the founders of Molly and Mela, a waste management company in northwest province of the country. Their story is one of a success entrepreneur stories in a sector that has been dominated mostly by men.
We are a waste management company specializing in waste removal, landfill management, recycling, as well as hazardous waste transportation. And we weren't really satisfied with our jobs, and so we decided to quit and jump into the world of entrepreneurship. I mean, as hard as it was, fast forward to 5 years later, we are so grateful to have taken that leap of faith.
In an industry that has been dominated by men, the two friends did not want to be looked down. They both were intentional of what they were getting into.
So when we started Molly and Mela, we started with only three employees, which was me, Tsego, and my father. So we only had one biking. And right now we are sitting on about 80 employees, permanent staff. And today we are sitting on about 10 flats that we own as Molly and Mela.
The duo say that they still have a long way to go in a country where unemployment stands at staggering 33%. They aim at creating jobs and helping the youth and women.
Like any other industry, the waste sector does have a few challenges. The first being that it is a male-dominated industry, so it's not very common for a woman to, operate or run a successful waste management company. And it's also a gated industry. It takes a lot for you to get your foot in the market and to create a space for yourself. But as the saying goes, all things are possible, if you put in the hard work. As challenging as it is, you need to be intentional, you need to be consistent.
Women are making great strides to stake their claim in the informal and formal waste management sectors, and Tsego and Ofense has proved to all of us that it is possible. They are not just running a business, but have opened doors of opportunities for people from the neighborhood too. This is Carlton Ongmu from Johannesburg, South Africa for WION World is One.
And finally, in North Africa, where Tunisian artist Zuhair El Bakhri has carved out a unique artistic world for himself, where he welds scrap, factory remains and discarded industrial material into works of art. Here now is his story.
This Tunisian artist is carving a niche for himself. He spends his day welding metal that he has collected over time and transforms it into pieces of art. Most of his raw materials are factory remains, which Zuhair El Bakhri turns into sculptures that he says reflect emotions.
I don't draw with my hands. I draw them with metal and scrap. I don't imagine a picture and then transfer it onto a canvas. I imagine it first, and most of the time, I envision people's stories.
His process begins by cleaning the scraps before assembling the works, which often borrow from the steampunk aesthetic. Once put together, he gets rid of oils, impurities, and dirt by burning the sculpture with fire. He then turns to the painting process, catering to customers' specific requests. At times, he leaves the works unpainted, highlighting the elements of machinery and emphasizing the sculpture's industrial look. Since the start of his scrap metal sculpting career, Zuhair has participated in many groups and solo exhibitions in and outside Tunisia, including exhibitions in France, Italy and Saudi Arabia.
When I take part in group exhibitions, I hear them say, "Look, the illiterate has arrived. How can he create all these sculptures while being illiterate?" Once I attended an exhibition in a company about a month ago. The company's owner asked me how I create these sculptures. He said, "I can't believe it's really you. The person who creates these sculptures must be an engineer. And that's there's someone who's drawing for me and another one who plans everything, and that I'm only responsible for the welding." I felt goosebumps and my tears came down, and I laughed because I couldn't respond to evil with more evil.
Zuhair is happy that his works could impress viewers regardless of their education or artistic backgrounds.
I don't have friends, but I coexist with people. All these sculptures tell stories of people, joy, sadness, those who have been released from prison, those who have gone through divorce, and much more. Everything belongs to people, and these stories remain and live with me.
The young artist hopes that his work will gain recognition outside Tunisia among art enthusiasts. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
And it's a wrap on this episode of World of Africa. Do you have a story idea from the continent that you want told on our show? Well, get in touch with us on X or any other social media platform and tell us what you're thinking about using the hashtag World of Africa. We would love hearing from you. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I'm Erik Njoka. Goodbye.